here we go for the very last poem in Beehive. A Slumber Did My Spirit Seal by Wordsworth. Now, this poem is something to do with life, something to do with death, and also to do with, something with life after death. How many of us believe in life after death? Have we ever, heard about it? I will not say experienced, obviously, but yeah, have you ever, heard from someone about it? So it assumes there is an assumption that there is life after death. Well, now that's a big question mark because when we all actually get into that stage, we will know, but then we will not come back to share it, right? So yeah, let's see. William Wordsworth tells us a little about it in his poem, very beautiful poem. So let's talk about him, the very well-known poet. William Wordsworth was an English romantic poet who helped to launch the Romantic age in English literature. The poem describes life beyond death. The poet had experienced some harsh realities of life like the French Revolution, war between France and England, etc. Hence, this poem holds the spirit of escapism from the city life to the elemental nature, which for the poet is an ideal place. Now, he had come across a lot of harsh realities of life. Yeah, he faced the war, the French Revolution, lot had happened then. So he feels, that's really terrible to be in. The most ideal place is, the elemental nature, away from this life, away from the five senses. That's what he's trying to tell us in this poem. So yeah, I'm going to read out the poem now for the very last time. Again, I bring it to your notice. You have to take care of the rhyme scheme. 1. You have to take care of the figures of speech. You will get the explanation word by word, line by line. But while I am reciting the poem, you are supposed to understand it. See till where your understanding goes, where your imagination goes, what message is the poet trying to give us. Yes? So let's get started. A slumber did my spirit seal. I had no human fears. She seemed a thing that could not feel the touch of earthy years. No motion has she now, no force. She neither hears nor sees, rolled round in earth's diurnal course, with rocks and stones and trees. Yes, this is your poem. That's it. Yeah, for the very first time, you have it just on one slide. You have just 8 lines, 2 stanzas. Now, let's talk about the rhyme scheme before we move on. So, can I look at the last words? Seal, fears, feel, years. Can you get some connection? Yes. Seal, feel, sounding same. Fears, years, sounding same. There's a rhythm. It's a rhyme pattern. So, it is A, B, A. Now, because this is sounding like feel, like seal, so this is also A, and this is sounding like fears, so this is B. So it's A, B, A, B. I'm sure by now you've got it. Likewise, it's here. Force, course, seas, trees. So C, D, C, D. Yeah, that's your rhyming pattern. Let's move further. So, what's the theme of the poem? A Slumber Did My Spirit Seal is one of the 5 Lucy poems written by Wordsworth. It is a short ballad having AB rhyme scheme. We already discussed it. The poem was written in 1798 and published in 1800. It describes and appreciates life beyond death. It actually describes and at the same time it also appreciates. Why? We shall know. William Wordsworth loved a small imaginary girl, Lucy, very much. Her death put a great effect on him. It's always the case when you love someone very dearly and God forbid they pass away, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to accept the fact that you will no longer be able to see that person, talk to that person, touch that person. The poet says that her deep sleep has made his soul a seal. Now, she, deep sleep as in sleep forever. She has passed away. So, her death basically has made his soul a seal. His soul has literally got sealed. Her death has made him so insensitive that he can't realize human fears. Living in the materialistic world, the human fear does not touch him any longer. It does not affect him any longer. Why? Because he's so lost in his own world. Nothing seems to be, there's no way of him, reacting to anything. He is just dumbstruck. He says that the child can't have any feeling of this earthy time because she has died. She's died. She has moved from the mortal world to the immortal world. What do we mean by mortal world? Mortal, now like you and I, all humans, we are mortal. We are going to die eventually, someday, sometime. We have an end, right? We have an expiry date, which is obviously a question mark for everyone because none of us know our expiry dates. Yeah. So he says, this is the mortal world and immortal is the soul, where the soul exists. Now, we talk about it, we've read about it, but really speaking, we have not real concrete proof about it. Yeah. So yeah, we just accept what's coming our way. So he says that she can't have any feeling of this earthly time because she has died. Now, she can't hear or see anything, but the poet consoles himself with the thought that she has become a permanent part of nature. How? She has become a permanent part. That means for him, she still exists, not in the human form, but with nature. It has shifted, but she exists for him. She moves in this cosmos as the earth does on its axis in a daily routine. She is moving with the rocks, stones, and trees all the time. So, in Hindi it says, mitti mein mil jana. We are made out of the same earth. There's a whole cycle, there's a whole cycle. We start from there and we end up there. Ultimately, when you are buried, right, you become ash. That's it. You just get mixed with the earth. So this is how it is, that whole cycle, and it brings you back to the rock, stones, and trees. So for him, she is there. She is there in the immortal form, though he cannot touch her, he cannot see her, he cannot talk to her, but yes, she exists for him. Let's see how. So we know the rhyme scheme, it's AB, AB. Let's talk of the figures of speech or the poetic devices that have been used. Alliteration is the repetition of the initial letter, which is generally a consonant, of several words marking the stressed syllable in a line of poem. So again, the same Betty bought a butter. So the words beginning with the same letter. Enjambment is the running lines of the poetry from one to the next without using any kind of punctuation to indicate a stop. So those are running lines. They continue to the next line and there is no indication, nothing to pause. Repetition is the same word repeated more than once in the same line, the same word. As I've always pointed out to you, alliteration is repetition of the letter, the first letter, the initial letter, whereas repetition is the repetition of the same word. So you know the difference between the two. Yeah. Now, moving to your poem, A Slumber. Slumber as in happening quickly or promptly. It's, when you take a light nap, like a doze. That's a slumber. Did my spirit seal? I had no human fears. She seemed a thing that could not feel the touch of earthy years. No motion has she now, no force. She neither hears nor sees, rolled round in earth's diurnal course, with rocks and stones and trees. It's fictitious or a true narrative or a story. That's the diurnal course. It's with the earth, right? The earth's diurnal course. So when you're talking of the probably the fictitious or probably the true story of the earth, this is how it is. So for him, she is with the rocks, stones and trees. Let's go to the explanation to understand first the first 4 lines. So, in the first line, the poet says that he has put to rest his conscience and thus has no human fears. He has put to rest his conscience. His conscience is what? You know, that gut feeling that we say, you know, I thought about it. I've already explained this to you. When I say, you know, I was doing an optional answer where I had the MCQ, and the first thing that came to my thing was B is the answer. So I ticked B. But then I don't know what made me change my mind, and I clicked, I ticked a D. And then I realized B was the right answer. So the first answer that you get from within, the inner voice, that's your conscience. Your inner voice is always true. So always listen to your inner voice. Yeah. So he says, I've put it to rest, and that's the reason I have no fears. Human fears means the fear of losing property, belongings, and life. He says, nothing is affecting me. I'm not bothered if I have to lose anything, any of the materialistic things, be it the property, be it the belongings, and even my life. Now, having given up all such things that give birth to human fears, he has now attained peace in nature. He has found the peace in nature. He says he has literally given up all the things that give birth to human fears, all the reasons to get afraid of. He has put them all away. Why? Because now he is concentrating in nature. He has found the peace there. In the third line, he talks about Lucy, who is, according to the poet, beyond sensual awareness. That is, beyond the prison of life. The prison of life. Life is a prison? Prison of life, and has attained death. So beautifully put. It is beyond the prison of life. Actually, life is a prison. You are like a puppet. The way God wants you to do, you are supposed to do. So it's a prison of life, and she has gone beyond it. She has crossed, she's out of that prison, and she has attained death. She doesn't feel the earthly time and earthly years have become timeless for her. Nothing matters. There's no age, there's no time, there are no minutes, no hours, nothing, no earthly time for her. It's all, it's all timeless now. Thus, she is immortal. Like I told you, God is immortal. Can God die ever? God is immortal. We are mortal. We are going to die. So all the humans who are going to die, all the humans obviously, we are mortal, whereas God is immortal. He's never going to die. So for him, she is immortal now, and it is Lucy because of whom he has attained fearlessness from the earthly fears. Says, now she has become immortal. That means she's never going to die. She is going to be there in nature all the time. And because of that thought, because of finding that peace there in nature, he has got so connected with that peace that he says he has attained fearlessness. He is no longer afraid of any earthly fears. Nothing affects him. He is all fine with everything that comes. He knows he is at peace. Nothing is going to scare him. Being immortal, now talking of lines 5 to 8, being immortal, that means who's never going to die, she has no movement and energy. Now, she is not a physical body. It is beyond life. Okay, so now there's no physical body, no five senses, no movement, no energy, nothing. She neither does hear something nor sees, no senses, the five senses. She has now become part of the earth and is rolling with it as it turns from day to night and vice versa. She is with the earth. She is just rolling with the earth. She's rolling it in the form, like we said, she is in her grave, covered with soil, having an epitaph, and is under the shade of the tree. Says she is in her grave. You bury them in the grave. She is covered with soil totally. Having an epitaph. What is an epitaph? On the tomb, when these Christians, they bury on the tombstone, they get an inscription written, so and so person, the year of birth, the date of birth, and when he died, and miss you, love you types, so those messages they write, that's an epitaph. So having an epitaph that's on the tomb and is under the shade of the tree. She is lying there peacefully. Thus the poet considers her to be in the lap of nature, which is an ideal place. So she's just there, she's lying in the lap of nature, the best place where nothing on earth can really, bother you. See, when you are living a life, you will come across problems, you will come across all different circumstances, different situations, different kinds of people, so much to do. There are so many things. You also, as a student, you are also doing, you have homework, you have, friends, you have so many things across, you are doing that day in and day out. So that's life. Basically, that's the definition of life. You have to keep moving on. Yeah, you cannot stay where you are. You have to keep moving on. So that life is all about hustle and bustle. You have to keep running. You have to keep, doing things. You cannot just sleep the whole long day. Yeah. But when it comes to death, it's beyond life. So you can imagine it is away from all the problems of life, away from all the different categories of life. And this is where she is. She is in the lap of nature, which is an ideal place. She does not have to go through the hustle bustle of life. She is at peace. She's lying there in the lap of nature. By narrating the story of immortal Lucy, Lucy is immortal because she has already died, he appreciates the fearlessness from death, which is the root cause of all the human sorrows and worries. He appreciates the fearlessness. He actually appreciates it. He speaks good about it. The fearlessness from death. You don't mind dying. See, people are afraid to die. Quite often you will see, even we've come across in movies, people are actually afraid to die. Oh, am I going to die? And what happens to them? They become, it's for anybody. Maybe the same can be here. But that's how we humans have that general tendency that we are afraid of death. So when he sees her at peace, immortal, lying there with no, movement, no motion, no fears, nothing, no time touching, not going as per the time limit, nothing of the sort. He finds that so beautiful. So he appreciates the fearlessness from death, which is the root cause of all the human sorrows and worries. He considers death to be something worth attaining. He says it's really beautiful to die. Even that is one process. And he says, oh, it's worth it. You should really die because then there is nothing to bother about. He desires that he should attain the same peace as attained by Lucy after becoming part of nature. He says, I want to have that same peace. I want to experience that same peace that she is experiencing. I want to do it too. He desires to become a part of nature, and for becoming so, death is a must. Now, how will you become part of nature? How will you, how will you become earth? How will you become a part of earth? Because, that is possible only after you die. So death is a must. You have to die. And for that reason, to experience that peace, he is ready to welcome death. He says, I don't mind dying. Let death come to me. In fact, I want to experience that peace. Thus, he holds the spirit of romanticism, of which desire for death was a feature. He keeps that spirit, that beloved of his is there. And yes, to get to her, because now she is immortal and he is mortal, even he wants to become immortal and then be there forever. So he desires for death. He wishes for death. That's how he wants it to be, because he's tired of all this, the life that he has been living. And after seeing that nothing is affecting her, he says, I want the same. Now, talking of your figures of speech, of all the 8 lines, most of them are alliteration, where the first letter is being repeated. The first letter, the sound. So, slumber, spirit, seal, it is S, 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 sir, sir, sir. She seemed, S, S. Then you have no, now, na. Then you have she, sees, ss. Rolled round, r. Yeah, that's your alliteration. Enjambment, it is a running line. She seemed a thing that could not feel the touch of earthy years. That could not feel the touch. It is a running line. It is a continuing line. So it is for enjambment. There is no pause, no punctuation. And coming to repetition, no, the same word is being repeated more than once in the same line. Whenever you are stuck, whenever you don't understand, please go to the previous slide and read the definitions. Yes, once the definitions are clear to you, you have no issues at all to even answer your unseen poems, which are definitely a part of your question paper. And so let's end on the note with Jack Thorne. Those who love us never leave us. There are things that death cannot touch. The bond, the connection. Now for William Wordsworth, Lucy is always there. She has become a part of nature. Yes, she is not the physical body, but she is there as an immortal soul. But she exists for him. That's the reason they say those who love us never leave us. They are there in one corner of your heart. They are dear to you. You cannot forget them till your last breath. Just like he couldn't forget her. That's the reason he also wants to die. Yes, and this is how it is. There are things that death cannot touch. No one can touch the bonds. No one can touch those connections. Those bonds which are not physical, which are not visible, you cannot hear them. Yes, you can feel them. Feel them in the sense you cannot touch them. But yes, that connection, that bond is always there. I'm sure you have the same connection and the same bond with all your near and dear ones. Yes, just like I have that connection, that bond with you. Yes, so keep the bond going really strong. For the same, keep watching and keep learning.